forgot to clear my throat before I started this video. Darn it. Alright, so one thing I actually didn't mention, hopefully y'all are watching these videos from the very start. I know they're long though. Hopefully you get this far. But make sure your hotkeys are really good. And I have a video on my channel about hotkeys. I know it's a long video and it's hard to listen to me talk for this long, but my hotkeys are freaking beastly. Alright, I put a lot of thought in this stuff, and I can tell you my hotkeys are better than your hotkeys. Like, nobody thinks as much about stuff as I do. I always put all these theoretical aspects on all this crap, right? My hotkeys are good, alright? So, if you want good hotkeys for Deathmatch, they're not the best. They could be better, for sure, but they're really good. Alright, everyone else that I play Deathmatch with, they're always talking to me about their hotkeys, and I listen to them, and I'm just like, what are they thinking doing these hotkeys? They're not even, mine are like, they're easy to use. Like, once you get used to them, right, you can do everything so quickly, and like, your hand doesn't have to move a ton. You don't have to do a bunch of weird hand movements. Your hand stays in like the same spot. It's really nice. Anyways, I'm going to talk about, but back a couple more steps here. Okay, so we're going to do Vietnamese. So again, we'll go to the stable units. We can rush Cavalier. We get elephants. Whenever we get elephants, 4 stable. I don't think there's a case where you don't want to go 4 stable, at least with elephants. So we start the Cavaliers. If we're against a Knight Civ or Paladin Civ, we'll go for some helps. If we're not, maybe, again, maybe we still add some helps, right? We said that we maybe make some helps, right? Or champions, right? We're not sure about that. Maybe 0, maybe 2, maybe 4. We're not sure. We're not sure. Y'all can check it out. But again, if you're against the Cav Civs, 2 stables, make your racks next. And again, just to refresh, make the racks in the front, right? Make them in the front here, make any other buildings here in the back, except for the siege. Keep the siege up front because the siege already moves slow enough as is. We don't need them to move a little extra distance and then get caught up in the buildings and all that junk, right? Keep the siege out front. But if you have to make ranges, make them in the back. Alright, so we got our stables. Why does it switch? This is annoying to me. We got our four stables. We got our barracks going up. Now I gotta look at the range units, okay? We don't get Parthian tactics, whatever. Heavy Cav Archer, they get extra HP. That's great. And then we compare it to our siege units and our unique units. So the Rat Archer has higher pierce armor, lower mobility, same DPS. Did I say higher pierce armor? I think I said that. Lower HP. Yeah, I said that. And it's cheaper. Again, the problem is that you have to make the castles first, so you're going to be down units in the beginning. The other problem with the Rat Archers, in my opinion, is that the DPS is the same as the CA. So you're going to be lower numbers and same DPS in the beginning. And again, as you get better with unit control, you shouldn't really be losing your range units, and you really shouldn't be taking much damage with your range units. So I think that Rat Archers, there's definitely a place for them. Like if you're against Britons and they're making a lot of longbowmen, and you want to just fight Rat Archers against Rat Archers against longbowmen, then great. Rat Archers are great there. But in a lot of other cases, I think it's better to get out the CA go for CA faster, because CA is going to allow you to use your elephants efficiently. And the reason why I say use your elephants efficiently, I think all the other elephant civs get heavy scorpion, which is usually another alternative to CA. Unfortunately, Vietnamese don't get heavy scorpion, so you need some unit that's gonna kill halberdiers. And Onager is fine. The thing with Onager is that Onager, it can be good if you like attack ground. You can kill a lot of the helps before they even get to your units. But the problem is you're not always going to be paying attention to your Onagers. You're trying to take map control, etc., etc. And the thing is that when Onagers shoot at helps that are attacking your elephants, it basically is a wash. They aim, the damage does as much damage to you basically as it does to them. So it doesn't really help you that much. You're hitting your own units, you know. So yeah. And then again, bombard cannon is not something you're really thinking about in the beginning in terms of like, how much gold are you allotting for it. It's just something you're gonna, So again, we open with two stables, then our barracks, then 2 more stables. Get the elephants out. That's gonna be 4,000 gold from the stable department. And then, like I said, pretty standard to go for 6 ranges here. Again, if you want to transition to Rat and Archers, go for it. Go for less ranges, or even go for 0 ranges if you really want to go for Rat and Archers right away. I'm just saying, I made my point where I think, again, CA are maybe a better opening for Vietnamese. And then, like I said, 6 ranges, maybe you have to I think like in Hun's game, sometimes if you end up making too many gold units in the beginning, um, you need to like DQ a couple Cav Archer just so you can have some siege units because you always want to have gold for siege units in the beginning. So yeah, so that's kind of Vietnamese here. Saracens. Okay, so Saracens. I think I heard that they buff the Mamelukes in DE, so I definitely try to get the Mamelukes. And Mamelukes are a superior unit to Cav Archer, so Saracens do get CA. And again, it's one of those units where you can say like, hey, I want the map control early. Um, Let me go for CA. I'll go for a couple ranges for CA. Not saying that's a bad idea. It can be okay for in some situations for sure. But I just want to note that the Mamelukes are like much superior to CA. They do a lot more DPS than CA, so it's one of those cases where you definitely want to try to get the Mamelukes as fast as you can in most cases. Um, but again, like let's say you're against Teutons, right? Cav Archer are obviously going to do higher DPS versus Teutonic Knights than elite Mamelukes, but yeah. Also, I think Mamelukes range is quite crappy. Yeah, they only have 3 range, whereas the CA have like what 4? That's still crappy. But they get bonus range, and they get bracer, so they get 7 range. So they actually do okay, I guess. Um, but yeah, their DPS is much lower. So what do they do? 7 damage plus 4, 11. And Mamelukes benefit from the melee upgrades. What am I doing? And they do plus 4, I think, as well. So 14 versus. See, that's kind of actually close, actually. And the Mamelukes actually cost a lot more gold. I don't know. Mamelukes, I think, still have a higher DPS. But anyways, so we'll get to Saracens again. So again, we're going back to our stables. So we don't get knights here, so we're probably just gonna, if we're gonna raid, we're gonna raid with camels. If we're against a knight civ, again, it's probably, we don't get halberdier, so it might be one of those cases where we just go for more stables instead of adding the barracks. And then going for more camels to defend. It's definitely going to be better. I think camels again are going to definitely be better to defend against paladins or cav than pikemen or champions. Um, and then we might go to CA. So again, we could do like 4 stable heavy camels, and we try to go like 6 ranges cav archer if we want. Again, I don't think that's maybe the optimal thing in most cases. I think maybe going for a couple range CA if you really need the map control. Otherwise, maybe just go right into castles and go for the Mamelukes. And then the Saracen siege is really quite good here. They're missing heavy scorpion, but that's not really much of an issue, I guess. SO and CGM and bombard cannon. So that's one of those things where probably again, if you're not getting my vibe already on this, 4 stables probably here. Questionable here. Maybe worth it to make some champions just push some map control so you're not just fighting out of your base. And then maybe make some CA again if you need the map control. Otherwise, go for Mamelukes and Siege. The one thing I haven't mentioned so far is again regarding these castle units, they're quite good, and you do give up quite a bit of map control for it. But there is something you can do to kind of compensate for the map control you're giving up, and that's you can use the market to get some extra gold. So I'll probably talk about this in future videos. I'm not very experienced with the market in terms of knowing what to buy and sell, but yeah, making the market early on in the game and then selling resources for somewhere between like a bonus of not bonus, but you basically get like 2 to 4,000 gold, maybe like 5,000 gold or 6,000 gold of Saracens. But it can be nice because again, usually after you make all your units, you're still left with like 10,000 wood, 10,000 food or something like that. And so like using the market in the beginning to kind of sell some of that food and wood early on to get extra gold can be nice because then it allows you to really um, continually produce the gold units. So you don't really ever fall like as long as you eco fast enough, you never really are without gold when you use the market like that. And again, if you're giving up all the map control, and let's say it's not the main gold, but it's like an extra gold, like one of your 4 golds or whatever, right? Like here, let's say it's one of those golds, right? And you give up map control, then you're going to want to have that market so that you're able to get that extra gold to be able to have the potential to push back against somebody that doesn't take the market. And so that's one of those things that again you can kind of pull off. Again, if you have a castle unit that's not that much stronger than your normal units, then like it doesn't really make sense to go for castle unit right away because you're just giving up all the map control and it's basically forcing you to take the market in order to defend, right? And by the way, just by taking the market doesn't mean you're going to be guaranteed to push back. You know, they might still do a better job of unit control and stuff like that. And so it's not one of those things where you're going to rely on the market if you don't have to. So, but anyways, but if the unique unit is like much superior than to the alternatives like Mameluke is versus compared to Cav Archer, then then you can justify going for the castles faster. Um, yeah, also again, Saracens get really good siege, so having the extra gold to spend on that as well is quite good as well. Alright, I think lastly, I'll just look at another civ, like, I don't know, again, you have to look through all these civs, like again, I'll look through Italians here. Yeah, so Italians actually a tougher civ to play. So Genoese Crossbowman is very similar to the Arbalest, it does bonus damage versus cavalry. Overall, I just think the Genoese Crossbowman is superior to the Arbalest. I think, again, there's maybe limited situations because the range of the Genoese Crossbowman is less. It might not be as good, and it costs a little bit more, but in general, I think that it's pretty much superior to the Arbalest. Again, the downside being that you have to make them from castles, so if you need a map control early, going for Arbalest is important. So again, we can open with the Cavalier, right? And 2 stables. And then this is the hard part because honestly, here's a case where you might argue that maybe I shouldn't go for stables because you don't get camels to defend versus their raid, and you don't actually get help. So you're going for pikemen, and pikemen do they do okay versus cavalry, but it's not amazing. So this might be one of those cases where you maybe just open barracks instead. Don't go for the raid. Just try to get the barracks up fast so you have the pikemen that you need to defend against the maybe paladin or whatever they send. It's also another case where you might not make the 6 barracks because anytime you don't get help, it's kind of questionable to go for pikemen because again they don't do as much bonus damage against the cavalry. I don't think condos either are made like extremely. Somebody can maybe check this, but I don't think condos are made extremely quickly, and so I don't know if raiding with condos is viable. The tech seems decent, the HP seems fine, but they don't really. There's nothing really that's about them that says like, oh, I should make them over Cavalier. So I can check that later, and like in the next video, I can maybe update you guys on that. But I don't think that they're that amazing. Anyways, so yeah, so defending against the raid, this is gonna be a tricky one because you don't get helps. So again, maybe you just open with barracks instead. Don't go for the cavalry or anything like that. And then again, you're going to if you need this, it's hard here because if you don't open with like very much cavalry and you don't open with many barracks or whatever like that, it's really hard to take any map control at all. So it's one of those cases where like, is it even worth it to make Arbalest? Because I can make Arbalest, but they're really not gonna get me any map control, honestly. You know, with how few units I'm making here and here, like, I'm not gonna get any map control with Arbalest. You know, they're only just really gonna help kill the raid. So this is one of those tricky civs where you really need to get to your Genoese Crossbowmen against cavalry civs. But yeah, maybe against a non-cavalry civ, you can still say like 4 barracks champions, 3 barracks ranges, go for Arbalest, transition into Genoese Crossbowmen. But against again like a paladin civ, it's not as clear because it's not necessarily obvious what I should go for. I think again it's probably best to just try to make barracks for some pikemen to defend against the raid. Maybe some Arbalest as well, but not too much, maybe like 2 or 3 ranges at most. And then just get those castles up as fast as possible so you can get the Genoese Crossbowmen. And then after that, get the siege up as well, because if they get siege ram, then you really have nothing to defend against that. So you need against siege ram, you're going to need onager. So be able to get those barracks up quickly to get onagers out, and get bombard cannon as well, because I'm sure they're going to try to snipe these. They might, bombard cannon will be nice again. If they have like SO or something like that, you'll need bombard cannon to try to snipe that. But I don't know. If they go for SO, it's probably actually good to go into stables to get like Hussar or something out, just because like you can't really reliably take good trades against SO with onager, bombard cannon, and Genoese Crossbowmen. You need some sort of unit that can snipe the SO. So you're gonna need probably either condotieros or the hussar cavalier. So yeah, Italian's not an obvious, definitely not an obvious one. And again, like I said, after these videos, go through these civs and kind of think through what the strategy is going to be. Kind of again based on what we talked about. You know, how many stables, etc. I think I said that was gonna be the last one, but maybe I'll do one more. And again, looking through all the tech trees is really good. This is something I did on my first day of playing Deathmatch. I didn't know how to play these civs, and I just spent like a whole day not even playing games, but just looking through the tech trees, thinking through like what would my strategy be with this civ, like what units do they get that's good. Actually, for the last part here, I'm just going to go through each civ, talk about the unique unit quick and how it compares to their other units, and then that'll hopefully give you guys an idea of which civs you should be going for, like the castles, like more quickly than others. Again, all civs you're going to make castles, like you're going to try to get map control with castles on different areas of the map, but some you're going to make castles like literally right in your base, just so you can get the units out quickly. So let's go through them actually quite quick here. So for the first one, Aztecs. So Jaguar Warrior is going to be good against other infantry. It does, like nowadays with the champs that are cheaper, they don't do as good against champs like in terms of cost efficiency. Like large numbers of champs will still kill Jaguar Warriors. Yeah, like they'll outnumber them because you're making them from barracks. So Jags are not, they're good once you get the castles up, but before that, probably stick to champions. So I would not rush probably with Jags. Berbers, the Cav Archers are they're better. The Camel Archers are better than their Cav Archers, and they do regenerate HP, which again you're trying to avoid taking damage with the Cav Archers, but if you do, you have the ability to regenerate HP. So this is one of those things where I feel like it's good to go for the castle unit if you when you can safest. I don't know how to say what I was going to say, but when it's reasonably safe to do so, you should go for the Camel Archers. So again, if you have all back golds in the beginning, and maybe you don't have, maybe there's not like a forward hill that's, you know, if they take it, it's going to be the end of the game, then you can go for Camel Archers. But if you got to play, if your golds are forward or something like that, probably start with Cav Archer. Britons, I think it's better to go for Arbalists in the beginning just because the Arbalists are made faster. So you like if you were playing Britain's War and against somebody that goes for ranges versus someone that goes for longbowmen right away, the person that goes for ranges will probably be like 30 units ahead or something like that in archer numbers. So, or probably not that much, but like 25, 20. So probably better to go for Arbalist to start, but definitely transition to longbowmen when you can. Bulgarians, so the conics can actually be made from these Krapos as well, which I would say that you could definitely, it's something that hasn't really been explored in DM, but you could definitely make conics as a substitution for paladins. So you'd probably open 2 stable paladins, but you could switch into like build Krapos at home because they make quicker and they also provide the same population, and you don't necessarily need trebs right in your base. But like going for the conics as a substitution for paladins could actually be quite good. Conics do better against cavalry and against infantry, but worse against range. So if you're not against like super heavy range civs, then conics would definitely be awesome. Even if you're against heavy range civs, honestly, they still do okay though because you do get siege ram. So if you get the park the siege ram in front of the conics, it's fine. But yeah, definitely could go for Krapos and conics. That's definitely a viable strategy. So yeah, I would definitely, yeah, like I said, if you're against heavy range civs, then maybe paladin's better. But other than that, I would probably transition into conics later on. You don't have to go for them right away. The other thing about Bulgarians is they also get heavy cav archer, and they get siege. I think it's kind of a tricky civ because they get heavy cav archer, so you get the mobility there, or you go for the heavy siege. So probably better, honestly, in Deathmatch to go for the heavy siege than the cav archer. But it depends on the situation, I think. Heavy siege is generally going to trade better if you can keep it safe. But yeah, so that's Bulgarians. Burmese, the Arambai are okay later on, I think, but in the beginning, the Arambai are okay or later on, I think, but in the beginning, you usually want to invest all your gold into like heavy scorpions and battle elephants. It's going to give you a really strong push early on. The combination of these 2 units. So save them for later. Don't rush castles. Byzantines. So Byzantines, Cataphract, definitely some situations where it could be good if you're against a civ like Goths or something like that. getting cataphracts out fast can be really nice because it's obviously going to counter infantry. Um, but aside from that, aside from countering infantry, they're not like amazing against like other units. Like they do okay against like paladins and stuff like that, but it's not like like it's not like they're just gonna dominate them. So in general, I only like to go for cataphracts in the beginning if I'm against heavy infantry civs, Celts. Okay, so yeah, Woad Raiders are faster than champions, but they also cost more resources, and they generally, in terms of cost efficiency, the champions will do better than Woad Raiders. So in the beginning, there's not really any rush to get Woad Raiders out fast, I think. You also have the option to go for Paladin for better mobility. So like rating wise, Paladin's quite good. And then transitioning to like, or then doing like champions for map control. And then once you get castles up, go for Woad Raiders. That's usually the best way to go about it. You also get good siege, so that's also used for map control. Chinese. So yeah, Chinese is one of those civs where Chuko Nu are quite a lot better. They're much better than the Arbalist. So it's one of those civs where yeah, getting castles out quite fast is really nice for Chuko or for Chinese because Chuko Nus do really well against siege units, or they do like Onagers. I think they still trade pretty evenly with, but like Siege Ram they do good against. Heavy Scorpion I think they do good, they decently well against. So getting to Chuko Nu fast is important. Cumans. As far as I know, the Kipchucks are actually weaker than the Cav Archers for Cumans. They cost less gold, but I think they are weaker actually. Now that they got nerfed. So I haven't been going for Kipchucks in like any games I play. So y'all are free to retest that. But as far as I know, I think Kipchucks are actually weaker now. Ethiopians. Okay, so shuttle warriors are kind of like a double-edged sword. So the thing with shuttle warriors is that they produce insanely quick. By the way, sorry for the keyboard thing. That's kind of from like a last stream. Maybe I'll turn that off now. I just noticed that it's on. Okay, now it's on. Anyways, so shuttle warriors are made insanely quick, and so they don't really do very good against like many units, like one-on-one, because they lack a lot of. They don't have much HP or armor. But the thing is that they make so quick, and you can outmass like other units like quite easily, and trade quite well against them because of the numbers you have. So with Ethiopians, actually, I do recommend going for the castles, the shuttle warriors, in the beginning, and just spamming a lot of them and just trying to overrun them in the beginning because they really don't have many options outside of shuttle warriors to do a lot of damage. Like the SO are good, like they have full siege here, which is really nice, but they lack cavalry and their infantry isn't that great either because they lack champion. So they're also quite interesting because they have heavy cav archer and thumb ring, so that's actually quite nice. But their arbalists actually shoot faster, so they have a higher DPS with archer. So that's kind of like one of those tough decisions. Do you go for the heavy CA or the arbalist? Probably the arbalist is higher. Yeah, I don't know. Mobility, heavy CA here would just be all about mobility, not much else. Because arbalist still have higher DPS and cost efficiency. But yeah, shuttle warriors, like again, even paladins, you can do well against. The worst thing with shuttle warriors is that if they establish castles, and then they're able to mass their units, and it makes it really tough to trade efficiently. But in the beginning, I would go for them. I would say actually, if they're going for like a straight up castle unit, maybe avoid. I don't know, maybe avoid the shuttle warriors, just because like if they go for straight up castle units, it's gonna be really hard to push them. I don't know. Try it out actually. Maybe you can just overrun them in the beginning with shuttle warriors if they go for castle units. I don't know. They kill buildings quite quickly too, so like they double as a siege unit almost. Alright, Franks. So yeah, the throwing X-Men is pretty essential for Franks. They don't have like you could go for hand cannoneer as well from the range, but the hand cannoneer costs more gold. I think like twice as much gold, 50 gold compared to what? Yeah, 25, so like twice as much gold. So usually people are going for the throwing X-Men in the beginning. Your castles are cheaper as well, so that's quite good. But yeah, try to go for paladins, helms, and throwing X-Men in most cases. That's usually gonna be your best combo for Franks. Goths, Huskarls, you don't need to make the castles right away because you get Huskarls from the barracks. Same thing with Huns. So Huns, they get tokens from the stables now, so there's no incentive to make castles quickly. Incas, Kamiyuks. So yeah, Kamiyuks is like it's weird because Kamiyuks are like a mix between a champion and a halberdier. They don't do as much bonus damage to cavalry as a halberdier, but they have more HP and they have the +1 range. So it's kind of tricky with Kamiyaks actually. I would assume that they actually trade more cost efficiently versus like cavalry, but I'm not actually sure. Um, I think they're actually quick as well. They're like quicker than most. At least they seem pretty like decently fast. I probably wouldn't go for them right away, honestly. With Incas, I'd probably stick more towards like their infantry and then their range. But I think later on, I don't know. Champions are just so cheap now that's hard to justify like making Kamiyaks instead because the champs will definitely trade more cost efficiently versus Kamiyaks. But it's kind of tricky. Honestly, I'm not really sure. I probably wouldn't go for them right away. I just don't think it's worth it. Indians. So yeah, I kind of talked about elven archers are definitely like not definitely, but they lack mobility, but they are so tanky and stuff like that that usually it's quite good to go for them as like the earlier the better. So I would say that again, if you need map control, go for CA to start, but otherwise you can try to get into elven archers a little bit quicker, and that'll give you a little bit stronger army. Italians. So yeah, we talked about Italians last video, and or was it this video? I forget. But basically, jeez, how long is this video? Genoese crossbowmen are like the bread and butter for Italians in like land maps. So you really have to get to them quickly, especially against cavalry civs. Against non-cavalry civs, you can actually push with champions and arbalists in the beginning. But with against cavalry civs, you have to get into Genoese crossbowmen as soon as possible, otherwise they'll just die right away usually. Japanese. Okay, so samurai do good against unique units, but compared to other units, like compared to champion, compared to other units, samurai aren't that amazing. They're faster than champs, so that's nice. But yeah, compared to champs, like samurai aren't like that amazing. So um, if you're against like some, uh, if you're against some, what do you call it, like melee-based unique unit, then by all means try to go for samurai, I guess. But in the beginning, I wouldn't recommend going for them like right away. Khmer Ballista Elephants. Yeah, Khmer, you basically want to go, it's kind of like Burmese. You just want to go for heavy scorpions and elite battle elephants in the beginning. Most elephants might have some viability later on, but um, yeah, they do fine. I mean, they have good pierce armor and they do pierce damage and stuff like that and good HP. So, but you have a better option. So it's not like Indians where they are a good unit, but you don't have other really great options, or it's better than the other options. In this particular case, like the battle elephants are quite good, so it's typically better just to go for them. Koreans, okay, so they get war wagons. So yeah, Koreans are one of those definitely one of those civs where you want to go for the war wagons pretty early on. They have just a lot more HP, attacks more than Arbalist, and just like gold wise, they are just a lot better. Um, and they're also more mobile. So getting into war wagons fast is important. Again, if you need map control, you can go for Arbalist and champions and beginning. But otherwise, war wagons will be the ticket. Also, siege onagers as well, so it'll be nice. Lithuanians. Okay, so the Lettys is basically like the same as a paladin, except it doesn't have as much HP and it ignores armor. So in general, the Lettys unit does well against the units that have high melee armor, like Teutonic Knights or Boyars, or even Paladins. But doesn't do as good against like other units like range units and stuff like that, just because it costs extra gold and has less HP. So if you're against one of those units, like again Boyars, but some civ with a lot of Paladins and not so many CA or anything like that, or Teutonic Knights, then Lettys would be good. But other than that, I wouldn't make it right away. Magyar Hussars. So Magyar Hussars, usually you don't want to make a lot of trash units in the beginning, and Magyar Hussars are kind of considered trash because they don't count any gold. But they're actually quite a strong unit. They're not like, if you see they have 10 attack, which like it's almost like it's not as strong as a Cavalier, definitely not as much HP, but they do good against siege weapons and stuff like that. And that's actually a lot of civs make siege in the beginning, so like Magyar Hussars are actually quite a nice unit. And they lack physical armor, I see. But I don't know. I like Magyar Hussars. I don't think there's any hurry with Magyars to get the castles up, which is what we're talking about here, because you have Paladin and you have CA. But definitely, when you get those castles up, I'd definitely say start making Magyar Hussar. But yeah, no hurry to get the castles up. Definitely not a civ that you want to get the castles up right away, but eventually. Gambit Warrior. Yeah, they nerfed Gambit Warriors a couple months ago or a year ago or whatever, and They just haven't traded the same since then. With Malay, I think you usually just again want to go for elephants and heavy scorpions to start, and then maybe transition to some like Arbalest or whatever. But the Cranbit Warriors they're just not so good anymore. They're gold costs, especially now that champions are cheaper. The gold cost is like it's hard to justify. Like you look at the champs only cost 15 more food and 5 more gold, but they have how much more attack? The champions have almost double the attack and double the HP. So it's really hard to justify the Cranbit Warriors now. So I wouldn't go for them. Malians, Gametos. So again, the Gametos are kind of like the Ethiopian Shotel Warriors, except they are a range unit. And they have, again, not very much HP. The range is fine. I think they have like 100% accuracy. But I don't know, Gameto units are so squishy. They die to onager shots, they die like one onager shot, so really no incentive to go for Gametos. Even like in the mid to late game, Gametos are still kind of questionable to make. Plumed Archers. So yeah, this is probably a hotly debated unit to whether or not you should go for it right away, and it is kind of hard. Like the thing is that the Mayans produce actually all archers are produced cheaper, so it's kind of irrelevant. But I don't know. Plumes are just expensive now. They cost 55 gold, 55 wood, which means they cost 40 wood, 40 gold, and the Arbalists only cost like 31 gold. So Arbalists are quite a bit cheaper than Plumed Archers, and they actually have, I think, a higher DPS than Plumes, just lower Pierce Armor and lower HP, obviously. But they have a higher DPS, and again, you can build the ranges much faster than the castles. So early on, like the Arbalists would do quite good, and also they do bonus damage versus buildings. So Plumes are good for their higher HP and their mobility and their Pierce Armor, but it costs so much now that I don't know if there's really much of a rush to get the plumes out. I think probably like if you're doing like a meso war, then you could definitely make an argument to get plumes out faster because plumes do bonus damage versus eagles and other infantry. So if you're against a lot of infantry, you could definitely make an argument to get plumes out faster. But against other civs, I would probably stick to making arbalists instead of going for plumes right away, just for the map control. Of course, again, you can switch once you've expanded more and mobility is more of an important thing in the beginning. Once you've expanded more and it's more important to have mobile units, like just to get from place to place, plumed archers can be better. But I think at the beginning, like just for map control, arbalists typically do a bit better. Mongols. Yeah, so Mongols again, it's about like map control early on, then go for CA probably. But Mangudais are quite a strong unit, and if you compare them to CA, the gold cost I don't think is it's just a little bit more gold cost and a little bit more wood cost, and wood's kind of irrelevant in the beginning. So and they have just a higher DPS, do better versus siege, all that stuff. So yeah, I think Mangudai is one of those units again. Try to get to them as fast as you can, as long as you're just not giving up the map control. Persians, bat. Yeah, so this is a really hotly contested one. The War Elephant. So again, the War Elephant is just a beastly unit, 600 HP, a lot of attack, a lot of a lot of armor, everything. The biggest issue though is that they're made just as fast as like a paladin. Again, they destroy paladins. But the problem is that if you just go for the castle unit right away, you give up all the map control. And if the enemy is good at microing monks, then it's very hard to get. It can be hard to get like a good enough trade to justify the making of the elephants. Like you might start losing castles before you're able to really produce a lot of them because of how much map control you give up. So by all means, they're a very strong unit, but I think in higher level games they are not. It's still probably better to open with Paladin Help instead of just going for elephants right away. But yeah, it is it's a double-edged sword because they can do so well, but then they're countered so hard by monks. So even in higher level games, like if people aren't paying attention, the elephants can just run over monks. But if they are paying attention, then it can be quite costly. So I would probably say getting into elephants later on, like after you've maybe done an initial rush and established map control, is a good thing. But I wouldn't probably just go right into castles. Portuguese. Okay, so organ guns. So organ guns cost a little over twice as much as an arbalist, but they're definitely like twice as good as an arbalist. They have a lot of pierce armor, a lot of HP, a lot of attack. They benefit from the arquebus tech, which gives them ballistics on gunpowder. So definitely a really good unit, and I would say I would recommend getting into them as quickly as you can. I think they're a bit slower than Arbalest, but again, their stats are so much better that I would recommend trying to limit the number of Arbalists you make and just get into organ guns as quickly as possible. Saracens. So Saracens again. So yeah, Mamluks are quite good, so I try to get to them quite quickly. And we already talked about this earlier, but yeah, if you need map control, go for Cav Archer. Boyars. So yeah, Boyars do quite good against. They don't do good against Helbs, but they do get good against other infantry and cavalry. And so, um, again, if you try to make them right away, then you're going to fall behind in military numbers, and it's probably not going to be worth the. It might not be worth it. So I'd probably just limit. I wouldn't go for Boyars right away. Slavs have a really nice start because of the fact that the military buildings provide population, so you don't have to build a bunch of houses. So I would just use that to your advantage and make more barracks and stables and siege workshops, and then make the castles a bit later on when you're establishing map control, and then you can always make Boyars as kind of like a substitute to Cavalier. Spanish. So conquistadors are an interesting unit. They do a lot of damage, but they're also not super accurate when at far distances. So like the DPS from afar is I think it's still higher than CA, but not by like an insane margin. They also cost more gold than CA. So I feel like CA Conquistador is definitely something you can transition into later on, but I wouldn't go for it right away. I'd probably still make CA in the beginning with Spanish, but yeah, you can switch into Conquistadors later on. You could switch to it right away if your map is safe, honestly, because the thing is that you do make buildings faster. So if you do have a good enough rush and maybe map control is not the most important thing, you could probably make CA pretty quickly. The nice thing about Conquistadors, they do quite well versus Siege. They most times you never want to fight CA against like onagers and stuff like that, but Conquistadors do so much damage in their gunshots that they probably can trade decently against onagers in some situations. So I used to think that CA would probably just be the dominant thing here to do, but actually I'm starting to rethink and think that maybe Conquistadors isn't such a bad idea in the beginning. Totters. So Keshik is basically similar to a paladin. It is able to collect gold or something when it attacks, which is basically irrelevant because it's not that great. But yeah, if you go for Keshiks right away, you're going to give up a lot of map control, and they are pretty easily countered. Totters is actually a really tricky civ to play because it doesn't get they don't get halberdier, so yeah, it's one of those things. And their infantry is really bad. Like they're missing these 2 armor upgrades, so it's kind of a tricky thing. It's a tricky civ to play. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think the best combination for Totters in the beginning is probably opening like Hussar, probably like a Hussar. Just yeah, like heavy camel Hussar. I was gonna say champion, but they don't get champion, and the infantry sucks. I think the best way to open Tatars is probably like heavy camel Hussar and Cav Archer, and then siege is your best bet. Probably slip scorpions if they're going for helps, honestly, just to get that extra, like, because you have the DPS of the CA, but you probably even need more DPS just to make sure you're killing the helps super quickly, right? I don't know. It's hard. Once you get the hills, you're good with Totters usually, but before that, it's really hard to fight off like Helbs and stuff like that, just because you don't, like Helbs Paladin is really hard for them because the Paladin will soak the CA, and then the Helbs will just eat the cavalry alive. So, but anyways, the Keshik can be a decent unit to like shift towards later as a Paladin substitute, but prior to, I wouldn't do it in the beginning. I don't think it's worth the map control you give up. Teutonic Knight, yeah. So Teutonic Knights can be good against like again like civ like Franks where they're very melee based. that's great usage of Teutonic Knights. Again, they're slow though, and so I would just probably not make them right away. I'd probably just again open Paladin, help siege, and then once you get into castles, you can start making them later on if you want. But in the beginning, I just don't really like. Again, it's maybe against Goth or something, Greek decent. But even Goth can open CA or can go for CA and counter them. So Turks Janissaries. Yeah, I don't really like gunpowder. I think Conquistador is like really the only Conquistador or Organ Gun. Those are viable gunpowder units. I don't think Janissaries are really that great. Their accuracy is quite poor, and they have limited mobility. I think a better unit for Turks is just the CA. So I don't really think Janissaries really have much use. Again, they could do decent against like Siege or something, but they're so slow too that it's like against Onagers they probably just all die. So I don't really like them. I talked about Rat Archers before. I think that CA just like a little bit better of a unit to make early on. Rat Archers definitely viable against heavy archer-based civilizations, range-based civilizations, but early on I still like CA better. Lastly, Vikings. Again, Vikings is Berserks are a great unit. Only problem is again that you're missing out on the map control in the beginning of the game. So I like to make Berserks kind of as a like once I get the castles up, I like to substitute champions for Berserks just because they have the healing capabilities. So it's really nice to if you mass like a large number of Berserks and then you take a fight and then you do well in the fight. The ones you have remaining will probably heal to like a decent, they'll regain HP, which will get extra value. But just like one-on-one champs versus Zergs, the champs will win, like cost efficiency wise. All right. So yeah, that covers everything. I'll just give you a quick recap of the civs I think are good to make the units like pretty quickly. So Berbers is one. Britons is questionable. Bulgarians could be another one. I'll say you see the camel archer. The longbowman is kind of questionable. I probably wouldn't make him right away. The conics, elite conics, Bulgarians. Not the Arambai. Not the cataphracts. Cataphracts is kind of situational, but mostly not. Usually not Celts, the War Graders. Chukonu I would. Kipchaks, no. Ethiopians, Shuttle Warriors, I would. Franks, Throwing Axemen, I would. Goths, Huskarls, don't need them. Huns don't need the castles. Incas, the Kamyuk's kind of undecided. I generally think no, though. Indians, the elite Elephant Archer. I think it's kind of situational, but definitely want to get into them later. Battalions for sure. Genoese Crossmen, I want to get into them as soon as possible. Samurais, no. Elite Ballista Elephants, no. War Wagons, yes. The Lettys, no. Magyar Hussars, no. Karambits, no. Gametos, no. Plumed Archer is another one of those questionable ones. Again, if you're against a lot of infantry, then having the extra bonus versus infantry is nice from the plumes, but you give up a lot of map control by not going for the Arbalists in the beginning. The Mangadai, yes. Battle Elephants or not Battle Elephants, War Elephants kind of questionable, but in general, I'd probably just stick to making stables and then get the castles up a bit later and go for elephants. Organ guns, yes. Mamelukes, again, try to take a bit of map control, but get into Mamelukes fast. Boyars, no, not really. Conquistadors, again, I think after you get the stables and barracks up, I think going for the castles could be decent for sure. Totters, so yeah, Conquistadors, probably yes, but you can still go for Cav Archers here. Totters, no. Teutons, generally no. Just get them up a little bit later. Turks, no. Vietnamese, again, probably no. Get them up, switch into units later, but in the beginning, probably generally no. Vikings, again, switch into them, but in the beginning, no. All right, so hopefully now you guys have a better understanding of some of these units, and again, take some time to look through the different civs, and maybe even like do hypothetical matchups against different civs, and just kind of think about how stuff would go. But again, just try to work through it. Like I said, understand what the unique units are, whether or not you're going to go for them in the beginning, right? And then again, work your way from the stable, barracks, range. Again, range kind of coincides with siege workshop. That's what I like to think of. And then you'll always have you should always be able to determine like what units you're gonna make kind of right at the beginning of the game. You see the civ matchups, right? You should know exactly like kind of what units I need to make. And then like I'll say one more thing. It's not really super related to the content, but if you're playing like a team game, right? Then you also have to think about what are the other civs, not just who you're matched up against, but maybe who's potentially also like that the like if you get 2v1, right? In team games especially, you usually want to go for the extra barracks in the beginning. Like even if you're not against that civ directly, it could be the pocket player that's that civ, like an elephant civ or something like that. And so just making more barracks for helps against the pocket civ is something you want to do. And you also run the risk in like team games of getting doubled in the rush. They both like two players can rush you at the same time. So again, getting like lots of helps up quickly is can be a really good thing. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's kind of going to wrap it up for this video. And then again, in the next video, I'm going to start talking about some early game um, rushing strategies and some other tips. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.